The search for the Walt Disney Company's next CEO is well underway, with board chairman James P. Gorman leading the search as part of a recently established succession committee. And while rumors swirl surrounding one internal candidate supposedly being in the lead, a recent report from Matthew Bellany suggests that Disney's board is having doubts based on her connections to a certain political figure. Let's talk about co-chairman of Disney Entertainment Dana Walden and her relationship with former Vice President Kamala Harris, potentially taking the media executive out of the running to be Disney's next CEO, here on That Park Place.
We need to talk about who's going to be next up at Disney. It sounds like right now, Dana Walden not doing so hot in the CEO search here. Dana Walden now seen as a liability as Disney CEO due to friendship with, who's that? Who is that? Is that Tim Waltz's?
It's Kamala.
Kamala Harris, yes, in second Trump era. Yeah, I hear that she's the leader of the Democrat Party. That's interesting. As Disney prepares to select its next CEO, questions are swirling. Swirling is the right. It's kind of there's a lever that you can push to get that kind of swirl around Disney Entertainment co-chair Dana Walden and her chances, particularly due to her long-standing friendship with former U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris. A recent Puck report by Matt Bellany suggests that Walden's 30-year personal relationship with Harris could be a liability, especially as Disney tries to distance itself from political controversies and avoid conflicts with the Trump administration. She looks worried. Disney has spent the last few years entangled in political and cultural battles, some of which have caused major headaches for the company. The high-profile feud with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis over the parental rights in education law led to Disney losing its special governing district. Under Bob Iger's leadership, Disney has often stated that it wants to step away from divisive political issues, but beyond words, there hasn't been much forward momentum on that front. The company continues to push divisive progressive political messaging through its film and TV projects and in its theme parks, which many feel are no longer suitable for families that uphold traditional values. We'll have more on that story in just a moment. According to Bellany, Disney has made several moves in recent months to steer clear of further controversy. These include settling a lawsuit for $15 million, rolling back corporate DEI commitments. That lawsuit was with Donald Trump, by the way, and scaling down its Snow White live-action remake promotion. By the way, Bellany specifically calls that $15 million settlement a presidential bribe, as a joke, I think. But it is one way for Bob Iger to send money to Donald Trump without having that on the books as a political donation. So interesting. Let's move down a little bit because I've got a bit of additional information here. Ultimately, Disney finds itself in a precarious position. Once an apolitical entertainment powerhouse, the company has increasingly been drawn into cultural and political battles, often to its own detriment. As 2026 approaches and Bob Iger's exit looms, the choice of his successor will be as much about business strategy as political calculations. Whether Dana Walden is deemed the right leader for the future of Disney remains to be seen. But if the company wants to avoid further controversies, her connections to Kamala Harris could be an obstacle too big to ignore. So now, how tied together are they? The Waldens introduced the Harrises, the Imhoff Harrises. They introduced Kamala to her husband, Doug Imhoff. So that's how long these people have been swirling around each other.
Yes, and they're in that famous Brentwood Walking Club.
That's true. They're all in Brentwood, the same neighborhood that Bob Iger and Willow Bay, who was totally just waiting for Bob Iger to come home and retire and just chill out on the deck and trim the hedges, right? No, why not?
No. Aunt Willow is not exactly 100% into Uncle Bob. So I'm just saying.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So to me, Dana Walden, to many people, Dana Walden is the obvious choice because she's a Fox executive and came in, and Peter Rice is out. So she is the next logical person when you are talking about a company that Bob Iger built, which is not a theme park company. It is a theme park company, but Bob Iger is trying to get it to not be a theme park company, despite the fact that that's where they make all their money. Let's go over to Bloomberg, though.
But I would say with recent decisions, he is making it not a theme park company.
Well, yeah, we're going to talk about that more. Here's out of Bloomberg: Disney executives audition to be the company's next CEO. Who we have? Like, is that Willow Bay back there? And there's Josh D'Amaro. Yeah, I think that's the first time I've seen D'Amaro with the guns out there. So this is by Lucas Shaw, and there's a lot about the CEO selection process here. But what we want to get to is an update on Disney CEO succession, who is in and who is out. March 4th, Dana Walden appeared at the Morgan Stanley conference to tout the profitability of Disney streaming services. Days later, Parks chief Josh D'Amaro and Walden's co-chair Alan Bergman appeared at South by Southwest to discuss their creative collaborations. There's a lot of people just popping their head up to say, yeah. By the way, where is he? Jimmy Pitaro right here. Jimmy Pitaro has communicated to both friends and the board that he's not interested in the role. So I think Pitaro is out, which was a reasonable thing to say. I think he's good as the head of ESPN, which is, again, one of the few.
Is he though?
I don't think he has a chance of doing it. So maybe he's just accepting the fact that the role.
Yeah, I would say that's more it than being good at ESPN. ESPN's got huge problems right now, so I don't think he's so good at running it. He just gave Stephen A. Smith a stupid
$100 million contract.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say he's good. I don't know. He's gonna let Stephen A. talk more politics. Anyways, I didn't mean to take us on a tangent, but I'm just saying, is he really good at ESPN? No.
He's better at ESPN than Bergman is on the movie side. I'll say that the movie side of Disney is suffering horribly, and I don't know if that is really Bergman's fault, because they're getting all these bizarre directives, and also he's at the whims of the studio heads there with Kathleen Kennedy and Kevin Feige. They've at least made changes over at Disney Animation. They've gotten rid of Jennifer Lee. Jennifer Lee has decided to focus on writing and directing Frozen 3 and maybe Frozen 4, and been replaced with Jared Bush in that role. Pixar, it seems like Pete Docter is taking a more on-hands approach there. There's been a lot of changes at the studios, but still their most profitable brands have not been unlocked at this point. They're all suffering under the weight of the insistence that they're doing things correctly. Is that Bergman's fault?
I don't think so. You have to remember, Bergman was there as a co-runner of things for a very, very long time, with somebody who moved on, Alan Horn. Alan Horn, and he did a great job, but they had different duties, and they were each very capable in that. And then they, for lack of a better way to put it, Alan Horn kind of got shoved out, and he went to go work back for the bad guys over at Warner Brothers again. So if you keep track of what's happening at the C-suite level for a lot of these entertainment companies, it's the weirdest merry-go-round you've ever seen. And I have a feeling that if and when Walden does not get this gig, she's off to another studio company, because that's
I think that's the only option for her, honestly. Unless if Bergman gets the gig, I don't know how Dana Walden serves under Alan Bergman. If Pitaro gets the gig, I don't understand how that works on any level. He doesn't actually do a great job of getting his name out there. I think Josh D'Amaro is reasonable because he's been the most profitable person at the company. This article says that Staggs and Mayer are not legitimate options.
They should be. Those are the only, to be fair, those are probably the only two in the circle guys that should be being considered right now. And if you were going to try to do a co-CEO, I know this wasn't what the purpose of this article, but if you were going to do a co-CEO, I think that those are the two guys you could do it with.
I think so too. I think they would be an excellent choice. Although I don't know which one of them would want to work for the other. They're both co-CEO over at Candle Media, which appears to be a holding company of sorts. I'm still kind of struggling to understand what exactly they do other than own other media companies. I'm not saying they don't do anything, but Mayer and Staggs, I think, are the most reasonable choice. a couple of names that have been brought forward. Andrew Wilson from Electronic Arts, and I hate that idea, and I would hope that they never speak of it again. But Mattel CEO Anand Kretz, or however you pronounce his name, that's not a bad idea, honestly. Not my favorite pick, but he is a global person who has sold off some brands here. I didn't realize that Anand Kretz had sold Maker Studios to the company. So Kretz worked at Disney once before after selling Maker Studios to the company, and a deal that didn't end well. Wilson and Kretz declined to comment on that. Do you remember the Maker Studios deal culture?
Yes.
Do you want to explain that to the audience?
No, I do not.
That was when YouTube multi-channel networks were seen as the next big thing.
Boy, so were they wrong.
Guys like, oh man, I forget the name of some of them. I know Shay Carl was one, Shay Butler, from a channel called the Shaytards, which he insists was about unitards. He and a couple of other large YouTube creators, not including Philip DeFranco, who left early on and all of that, created a company called Maker Studios, and then they sold it to Disney for, I forget if it was $500 million, but with performance, maybe $1 billion almost. And they bought it because YouTube was the next big thing. Yeah. And then they couldn't figure out what to do with it. And then all the Maker Studios people were like, well, we can just use all the Disney stuff now, right? So we can use all this without asking permission, right? Which is not what Disney was signing up for. So that was $1 billion just poof, gone.
It was a big oopsie. Big oopsie.
Yeah. But I think they did hit a few of those performance targets. But, most of those people retired or just continued to make YouTube content that were working on that.
I mean, look, if you have a great personality and you have a following, you don't need that network idea that they put together. It was wonderful for the time, and it certainly worked to, grow everybody. But at a certain point, there's diminishing returns in that kind of a scheme. And that's what happened with Maker. And Disney gets into a lot of businesses, and agree with me or don't here, Jonas, but Disney gets into a lot of businesses they don't understand. And then they try to make it work for them, and it just doesn't, because it's not.
But you would think that they would understand, though. Here's the thing with Disney: Disney can't buy someone else's theme park and fix it, because
they can't fix their own right now. But yeah,
right. Well, that's a good point. We will be talking about that here in just a moment. But at this point, Dana Walden not looking great.
Oh,
Jimmy Pitaro appears to be completely out.
Good.
Alan Bergman, fine, I guess. That would not be an exciting choice. And I think Josh D'Amaro, at this particular point, other than the fact that he doesn't run media networks, which, by the way, the CEO of the Disney company doesn't necessarily need to be the guy running the media networks.
No.
He, to me, is the least painful internal choice. I think he actually is a believer in Walt. I've heard from certain sources about that. And really, when it comes down to it, it just shows how shallow the bench is there internally at the Disney company.
Josh, I used to believe that about Josh. I do not anymore.
It's fair enough. I mean, I think Rivers of America.
Yeah, exactly. And if you were supposedly the CEO of Parks and Experiences, you would know that's Harry Carey.
Yeah,
and I'm not talking about the baseball announcer. But
if you were a hot dog, would you eat yourself?
Yeah,
I would. Yeah. I'd be delicious.
Yeah, I'm just telling you, if you were going to try to pick from the people in the building, the people in the circle, the people that are there, whether they're consulting or not, I would go with this is the only time I'd go with the co-CEO framework would be with the Candle Media guys, and just have Disney absorb Candle Media, because I mean that's like nothing to them. Like
it makes sense. It makes too much sense at this point.
And you know what? That would get Blackstone out of the way, because Blackstone is the people who are bankrolling Candle. So
that's a very good point.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.